Welcome to another deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
Today,
Yes,
we're cracking open the Almanack of Naval Ravikant, this collection of wisdom
Yes.
from the guy who seems to have cracked the code on wealth and happiness.
Yes.
I'm excited to see what gems Eric Jorgenson pulled out for us.
It's not your typical self-help stuff.
Right.
Naval really challenges the way we think about success.
Okay.
Both the financial kind
Yeah.
and the kind that makes you,
Yeah.
well, actually enjoy life.
I'm all about challenging the norm, so let's jump in.
Okay.
I was struck by how Naval defines wealth.
Yeah.
It's not about piles of cash,
No.
but assets that earn while you sleep.
Yes.
That immediately shifted my perspective.
Right. It's a total mindset shift.
Yeah.
Instead of grinding away for every dollar,
Mm-hmm.
you're building systems that generate income passively.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine waking up every day with money already hitting your account
Okay, yeah.
from work you did once.
Okay, that sounds amazing, but how do we get there?
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's not about winning the lottery.
Definitely not.
Okay.
It starts with something Naval calls specific knowledge.
Okay.
It's like your secret weapon in the world.
Uh-huh.
It's the unique blend of your talents,
Mhm.
passions, and experiences.
Yeah.
The stuff you're almost effortlessly good at.
So it's not just about skills you learn in a classroom.
Right.
It's more about those things that come naturally to you.
Yes.
Like Naval gives the example of a musician, someone who just has that raw talent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
It's not just about the skill itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how you leverage it
Okay.
to create those assets that work for you even when you're not working.
Right.
So that musician,
Yeah.
they write a hit song.
Mm-hmm.
And because they understand the music industry
Okay.
and own the rights,
Yeah.
every time that song is played,
Mm-hmm.
they're earning
Okay.
even while they sleep.
Wow, that's a much clearer picture than just saying be good at something.
Yeah,
So is this like finding the thing you were obsessed with as a kid?
possibly. Yeah.
I used to build these elaborate cities out of Legos.
Uh-huh.
My parents thought it was a mess.
Yeah.
But maybe it was a sign.
It could be.
Yeah.
What were you naturally drawn to?
Right.
What did you love doing, even if no one was praising you for it?
Right.
That's a clue to your specific knowledge.
Okay, I'm definitely going to be thinking about that.
Yeah. Okay.
But let's say you've figured out your specific knowledge.
Okay.
What's the next step?
Leverage.
Okay.
And we're not talking about prying open a treasure chest.
Right.
Naval says we live in an age of infinite leverage, tools that can amplify the impact of your specific knowledge.
Okay. Infinite leverage sounds a bit like hype.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued, but also a little skeptical.
Uh-huh.
Break it down for me.
Okay.
What exactly are these tools?
Think about it this way. In the past, your leverage was limited.
Mm-hmm.
You could work more hours,
Right.
labor leverage,
Yeah.
or maybe save up some money to invest, capital leverage.
Yeah.
But today,
Yeah.
we have things like code and
Yeah.
media.
Uh-huh.
A single programmer can build an app used by millions.
Okay.
A writer can reach a global audience with a blog post.
Right.
That's leverage that wasn't possible before.
So it's like the internet has given us all these superpowers we didn't have before.
Yes.
But just because you can reach millions doesn't mean you will.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
That's where judgment comes in.
Uh-huh.
Naval argues that good judgment is even more important than hard work,
Okay.
especially in this age of leverage.
So it's not just about hustling.
Right.
It's about making smart choices.
Yeah.
But what does good judgment actually look like in practice?
Imagine someone offers you a get-rich-quick scheme.
Okay.
It sounds tempting, right?
Yeah.
But good judgment is asking,
Yeah.
what are the long-term consequences?
Mm.
Is this ethical?
Right.
What's the risk of it all blowing up in my face a year from now?
Yeah.
5 years from now?
Right.
That's how you avoid those pitfalls.
It's like choosing to build a solid house brick by brick
Yes.
rather than throwing up a flimsy structure that's going to collapse in the next storm.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that same principle applies to building wealth and happiness.
Yeah.
They're both long games.
Now, you mentioned happiness.
Yeah.
I know Naval emphasizes that it's not just a byproduct of success,
Right.
but something you actively cultivate.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, I struggle with that.
Yeah.
I tend to think
Okay.
once I achieve X,
Yeah.
then I'll be happy.
It's a common trap.
Okay.
But Naval argues that happiness is a skill,
Okay.
something you develop,
Mm-hmm.
like physical fitness.
Yeah.
You don't just magically find happiness.
Right.
You work at it.
Right.
He has this great analogy.
Yeah.
Meditation is intermittent fasting for the mind.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Just like giving your body a break from
Mhm.
constantly digesting.
Mm-hmm.
You give your mind a break from the constant chatter.
Right.
But I'm still curious about the practical side of this.
Okay.
How do we actually train this happiness muscle?
Well, Naval suggests being mindful of who you surround yourself with.
Okay.
He says,
Mhm.
you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
If you want to level up your happiness, level
Yeah.
up your
Yeah,
circle.
but I'm curious,
Yeah.
isn't that a bit elitist?
Yeah, it does.
What if someone is in a tough spot
Right.
and doesn't have the luxury of choosing their circle?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
It does sound a bit privileged.
Right.
Maybe it's less about ditching your current friends
Yeah.
and more about being intentional about who you let influence you.
Right.
Like if you're constantly around negativity, it's going to be harder to cultivate your own inner peace.
Right. It's about being aware of the energy you allow into your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another key point.
Yeah.
Avoiding status games and conflict.
Mm-hmm.
In a world obsessed with comparison and competition,
Yeah.
that's a tall order.
It is.
How do we even begin to step outside of
It's
that?
definitely a challenge,
Yeah.
especially with social media constantly bombarding us with images of perfect lives.
Right.
But maybe it starts with recognizing that those images are often just a carefully curated facade.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's where Naval's idea of internal freedom comes in.
Internal freedom, it sounds a bit like a self-help buzzword.
Yeah.
What's the deeper meaning there?
It's about breaking free from those knee-jerk reactions.
Okay.
The anger,
Right.
the frustration that comes from feeling like we're at the mercy of external forces.
Right.
Naval argues that true freedom comes from within,
Mm-hmm.
from choosing how we respond to the world around us.
So it's like taking back control of our own minds.
Yes.
But how do we do that?
Right.
It's easy to say, don't get angry.
Yeah.
But when someone cuts you off in traffic, it's hard not to react.
It is hard.
Yeah.
But that's where practices like meditation and mindfulness come in.
Okay.
They help us create that space between stimulus and response,
Right.
the space where we can choose a more mindful reaction.
Okay, I see how meditation fits into this.
Yeah.
But indifference to things outside of your control still sounds almost impossible to me.
Yeah.
Like, how can I be indifferent to, say, a global crisis? That feels wrong somehow.
It's not about becoming uncaring or apathetic.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the limits of your control. You can't single-handedly solve a global crisis.
Right.
But you can choose how you respond to it.
Okay.
You can choose to stay informed,
Right.
to take action where you can,
Yeah.
but also to protect your own mental and emotional well-being by not getting swept up in the constant anxiety.
It's like accepting that there will always be things outside of our control. But we can choose to focus on what we can influence.
Right.
It's a subtle but powerful shift in perspective.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's where the real freedom lies.
Okay.
It's the freedom to choose happiness, regardless of external circumstances.
I can see how that ties into the long game we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Instead of chasing fleeting pleasures or external validation,
Right.
we're building something more sustainable from within.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like building that solid house we talked about.
Yeah.
The one that can withstand the storms.
Yeah.
Inner peace is the foundation.
It all starts to make sense, but it also feels like a pretty radical departure from the way most of us are taught to think about success.
Right.
We're conditioned to believe that happiness comes from achieving certain things.
Yes.
Acquiring certain possessions.
And that's the trap Naval wants us to avoid.
Yeah.
He's urging us to redefine success on our own terms,
Okay.
to create a life
Yeah.
that aligns with our values
Right.
and brings us true fulfillment, not just external validation.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about creating your own definition of success, not letting society dictate it for you.
Right.
Right.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs,
Right.
setbacks and challenges.
Okay.
But by cultivating inner peace
Yeah.
and practicing good judgment,
Right.
you build the resilience to navigate those challenges
Yeah.
and stay focused on the long game.
So instead of getting derailed by every obstacle, you view it as a learning opportunity, a
Yes.
chance to course correct and keep moving forward.
Exactly.
I can see how that mindset shift would be incredibly valuable, both in terms of building wealth and in terms of creating a fulfilling life.
It's about seeing the bigger picture,
Right.
understanding that success is not a linear path.
Mm-hmm.
It's a series of choices, a constant process of learning and evolving.
It's about becoming the best version of yourself, not the version that society tells you to be.
Yes.
That's a message that really resonates with me.
And it all ties back to that idea of specific knowledge.
Okay.
Naval believes that when you combine your specific knowledge with leverage
Uh-huh.
and apply good judgment over a long period of time,
Right.
you inevitably achieve success on your own terms.
So it's not about following a blueprint, it's about forging your own path.
Yes.
I love how Naval encourages us to become the best in the world at what you do. Keep redefining what you do until this is true.
And remember, it's not about achieving some arbitrary level of fame or fortune.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your talents and passions intersect with a real need in the world.
Okay.
It's about creating something that feels authentically you,
Right.
something that adds value to others,
Yeah.
and something that brings you a sense of meaning and purpose.
I can't help but think back to all those Lego cities I built as a kid.
Uh-huh.
I was so absorbed in that process.
Yeah.
So lost in the joy of creation.
Right.
Maybe that's a clue to my specific knowledge.
Yeah.
But as an adult, I got caught up in the shoulds,
Uh-huh.
chasing what I thought I was supposed to do,
Right.
and I lost that sense of pure joy.
It happens to a lot of us.
Right.
We get so focused on the external markers of success
Yeah.
that we forget about what truly lights us up, what makes us feel alive.
Right.
But it's never too late to rediscover that passion.
And maybe that's the key to unlocking both wealth and happiness.
Yeah.
Finding that thing that feels like play to you but looks like work to others.
Yes.
That thing you could do for hours on end and never get bored.
Right.
It's about tapping into that inner drive, that source of energy that comes from doing something you truly love.
Exactly.
Right.
And when you find that thing,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to go all in,
Okay.
to dedicate yourself fully to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the magic happens.
But what about those of us who are still figuring it out?
Yeah.
I'm sure many listeners are thinking, this all sounds great, but I have no idea what my specific knowledge is.
Yeah.
Any advice for those who are still on that journey of self-discovery?
It's a process,
Right.
and it's unique for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I would suggest.
Okay.
Start by paying attention to what you're naturally drawn to,
Mm-hmm.
what you enjoy learning about,
Okay.
what you find yourself doing, even when you're not getting paid for it.
Right.
Those are all clues.
It's like paying attention to the whispers of your soul.
Yes.
Those subtle hints that are guiding you toward your true purpose.
And don't be afraid to experiment,
Okay.
to try different things,
Right.
to step outside of your comfort zone.
Right.
You never know what you might discover about yourself.
And even if you don't have all the answers right now, just starting the journey is a huge step.
Absolutely. The journey itself is where the growth happens, where you learn and evolve and discover who you truly are.
Okay. I'm feeling inspired to take some action.
Great.
But before we wrap up, there's one more piece of Naval's wisdom I want to touch on.
Right.
The idea of playing iterated games.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
This is one of his most insightful concepts.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing that life is not a series of isolated transactions.
Okay.
It's a long game.
Right?
Every interaction, every decision we make
Yeah.
has ripple effects that extend far beyond the present moment.
So it's not just about winning in the short term.
Right.
It's about building relationships and a reputation
Yes.
that compound over time.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how this connects back to happiness.
Yeah.
If you're constantly burning bridges for a quick buck, that's going to create a lot of inner turmoil.
Exactly.
Right?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
If you're playing a one-off game,
Yeah.
you might be tempted to cheat or cut corners to win.
Right.
But if you know you're going to be playing with the same people over and over again,
Yeah.
you're more likely to play fair
Right.
to build trust
Mm-hmm.
because you know that reputation will matter in the long run.
So it's like choosing to be the reliable friend,
Yes.
the honest business partner,
Exactly.
the person who always delivers on their promises.
Right.
That kind of reputation becomes an asset in itself.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's like building social capital.
Okay.
And that capital can pay off in ways you might not even anticipate.
Right.
It opens doors,
Mm-hmm.
creates opportunities,
Yeah.
and attracts the kind of people who value integrity and long-term thinking.
It's like that bamboo analogy you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You might not see immediate results,
Right.
but you're laying the groundwork for something much bigger.
Exactly.
Something that will eventually grow exponentially.
That's a great connection.
Yeah.
And that principle applies to so many areas of life.
Right.
from our careers to our relationships
Mm-hmm.
to our personal growth.
Okay.
It's about making choices today
Yeah.
that set us up for success and fulfillment in the long run.
It makes me think about Naval's emphasis on choosing your 5 closest companions wisely.
Yes.
If you're surrounded by people who are playing the long game,
Mm-hmm.
who value integrity and growth,
Right.
that's going to have a positive ripple effect on your own life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like having a support system
Right.
that encourages you to be your best self,
Mm-hmm.
to make choices that align with your values,
Right.
and to stay focused on what truly matters.
Yeah.
It's about creating an ecosystem
Right.
that fosters growth and well-being.
This is all starting to click for me.
Good.
It's not just about achieving some arbitrary level of wealth or status.
Right.
It's about creating a life that is both meaningful and sustainable.
Yes.
It's about finding that sweet spot
Uh-huh.
where your specific knowledge, your leverage,
Yes.
your good judgment,
Right.
and your inner peace all come together.
And remember, it's a journey.
Right.
There will be times when you stumble,
Yeah.
when you make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
when you question everything.
Right.
But that's all part of the process.
Yeah.
It's through those challenges that you learn and grow and become more resilient.
So instead of viewing setbacks as failures, we see them as opportunities for course correction,
Yes.
as feedback that helps us refine our approach and stay on track.
Exactly.
Right.
And that brings us back to Naval's point about happiness being a skill.
Yeah.
It's not about avoiding challenges or pretending that everything is always perfect.
Right.
It's about developing the inner strength and resilience to navigate the ups and downs of life with grace and equanimity.
It's about accepting that life is messy and unpredictable,
Yes.
but we have the power to choose how we respond to it.
And that's the true definition of freedom.
Okay.
The freedom to choose happiness regardless of external circumstances.
It's been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
We've covered so much ground. From the importance of specific knowledge and leverage to the power of good judgment
Right.
and the cultivation of inner peace.
Yes.
I feel like I have a whole new framework for thinking about success.
Good.
One that is both more holistic and more empowering.
And remember, it's not about blindly following Naval's blueprint.
Right.
It's about taking what resonates with you,
Yeah.
experimenting,
Mm-hmm.
adapting it to your own unique circumstances,
Okay.
and creating your own path.
It's about becoming the author of your own story.
Yes.
Writing a narrative that reflects your values, your passions, and your unique contribution to the world.
Exactly.
Right.
So go out there, discover your specific knowledge,
Okay.
find your leverage,
Uh-huh.
cultivate your judgment,
Yeah.
and build a life that brings you both wealth and happiness on your own terms.
Awesome.
This is your journey.
Right.
Make it count.